Hey guys, to help run the forums, host the website, and travel, we've introduced a universal service fee for in-depth coverage, including this video. My goal is to be unbiased and transparent. It's a privilege to serve you. This is not an endorsement. Let's get into it. Hey guys, I'm in Denver, Colorado, and it's sprinkling, it's a little bit windy, and I'm at the park. There are all these people getting off of work, and their dogs are running around. So, with that said, this is the Velec R48. This is a Canadian company from Montreal, and I like their products. It's kind of cool. They give you a lot of different options. Like this one can come with a 48 volt 11 amp hour or 14 amp hour battery for people who want to go a little further, or use the throttle more, because that's gonna definitely suck the power in your battery a bit faster. I also noticed that it has this really crazy saddle. I've never seen anything quite this large, and it's got the big springs and everything, in addition to a suspension seat post, 30.4 millimeter diameter on that. If you wanted to replace it with an even more heavy duty post, this one has 40 millimeters of travel. It's decent. And then up here we got the SR Suntour NEX. This is a spring suspension, a little bit heavier than an air fork. It doesn't have lockout or compression adjust or rebound or anything like that, but it does have preload. So if you take these caps off, you can tighten down both sides. You try to keep them both even, and that's going to preload the springs. So if you're a heavier rider, it won't just be bouncing all the way down and kind of bottoming out quite as easily. I appreciate that this is a step-through frame, that it comes in two sizes. So there's a 17 and then 19. Pretty good, being able to approach the bike, stand over it, have a color like black, which we've got here, that might be a little bit more masculine. They also have a gloss red and metallic silver. So a lot of choices, whether it's the battery or the frame size, and then you get a lot of different comfort, little upgrades. The price point on this isn't too bad. It's $22.99. They give you a year-long comprehensive warranty, 2 years on the motor and the battery, which is good, and then 3 years on the frame. They've been around since 2005. This is the first time I've really seen them. I'm at a store called Best Electric Bikes USA in Denver, and they carry the whole line. So this one, it's kind of in the middle in terms of features. They do have a cheaper one, and it has a battery that's right behind the seat post, whereas this one's integrated into that down tube. You can see there's a lot of extra material here, like a gusset there and right here. It's even filled in to make it a little bit sturdier, but it does weigh a bit more. So I think it's 65 pounds, it's definitely on the heavier side, even for a bike with suspension. And these are plastic fenders, which tend to be a little bit lighter weight, but can sometimes rattle a bit more. Nice, pretty tough looking, blends in on this bike because it's all black. Rear rack, it's got the supports on top, so you could add a trunk bag, and I think it would mostly stay out of the way of that saddle, but that's as low as the saddle will go with the suspension post. So that's something to think about. If you're someone who's a little bit shorter and you're getting the smaller frame size and you want that saddle to come even lower, you might have to swap that out for a rigid post. The tubing seems a bit thicker to me. It does have pannier guard. I don't know if this is a hanger position, because then your pannier would be pretty low, but there is this loop here for maybe doing a bungee cord. So the rack's sort of a mixed bag for me. It doesn't say how much weight it can handle, but I'm guessing around 50 pounds. And then the drivetrain is a little bit upgraded. So Shimano Acera, 8-speed, 11 to 32. So it's a good range. Some of the other cheaper bikes, like the A4, it has Shimano Tourney, and it's a 7-speed, and it's 14 to 28. So your sprocket sizes, you don't have that range or as many gears, and that means that pedaling, you just don't have as many cadence options. This one has a nice plastic kind of a guard. It doesn't have a full guide, so the chain could fall off inward, but it's not going to fall off outward, and this matches up very nicely with the plastic chain cover, so your pants or your skirt won't touch that chain. I really appreciate that. I noticed there isn't a slap guard in there, but I haven't actually noticed it banging and chipping this at all yet. This is a brand new bike, so it's hard to say, and sometimes I get box tape, the clear tape, and I'll put it right there on a chainstay just to keep the chain from marring the frame. This is a really nice looking frame, and check it out. There's a chainstay here. This isn't technically a chainstay, but it's parallel, and it gives you that extra strength so you don't have the frame flex. I just really appreciate that. I feel like these bikes are overbuilt, and even things like these pedals, they're kind of basic, but they're a little bit bigger than some other pedals, and they've got rubber tread. They're from Welgo. If you do slip off, it's wet right now, if I slip off and you hit your shin, you're not going to get scratched up quite as easily. It's a part that's easy to upgrade, something worth thinking about, but parts that aren't as easy or cheap to upgrade are things like these tires. So these are Schwalbe Marathon Plus Tour, and they have Performance Line Smart Guards, so that's like puncture protection, and that's a really big deal when you have like a hub motor. This thing's using 12mm axle with nuts. It's not a quick release like we have on the front. This wheel's going to be easy to service. This one, you have to unplug the motor cable and then worry about this extra derailleur guard, which is very nice to have. This is steel, by the way, so it might rust if you get it scratched up, but at least if the bike tips over, the derailleur's not going to get bent. This cable isn't going to get like snagged or disconnected or something. It's a sensitive part of the bike, and it's just more going on back here. You really don't want to get a flat tire, so keep an eye on the tire pressure. Try not to, ride where there are a lot of thorns, but at least if you do, you've got that Performance Line Smart Guard helping to keep those thorns from getting all the way to the inner tube. And I just love that it has reflective sidewalls, so you're going to be able to be kind of visible from the side. Even the white accents here. Yes, this is a black bike. It looks really nice, and that helps some of the cables and things to blend in. You can see that up here at the front. There's a lot of cables because both of the brake levers have motor inhibitors, but they're using these metal threaded connectors with rubber washers in between, and they're really water resistant. So there's no fear right now. Even though the bike's definitely getting wet, it's not going to get ruined. These are durable bikes. And then thinking about that environment in like Canada, I think they've got like 100 dealers or something. So there are definitely places where it's raining like this all the time, or snowing or whatever, and then there's salt on the road and stuff. So I feel like they've used parts here. The parts that matter are a little bit upgraded, like the derailleur, like those tires, and then the comfort, the touch points are a big deal. Even that stem. So regardless of which size you get, you can bring it forward for more aggressive, or bring it up and have that Dutch like upright body position. Pretty basic ergonomic grips. They don't lock, so it can spin a little bit, but they are a bit more comfortable. Mid-rise handlebar, so that's nice. It brings it up even more. And we've got the display. It's not removable, but it does swivel a little bit to reduce glare if you need that. And then we got this micro shifter on the right. I've had a little bit of trouble with the low lever. It's like I'm pushing on it. Maybe the bike needs to be adjusted, but the brakes themselves have been pretty good. We've got 3-finger levers, whooshing. It's a little bit of a cheaper brand, but they do have those motor inhibitors. I'll come back to that later during the ride test. 180mm front rotor, that's where a lot of your stopping power comes from. And then 13-gauge spokes, so extra thick, 36 of them as well. So this is a little bit nicer, heavier duty, and I don't know the maximum weight on this bike, but I'm guessing at least 250, because in the rear we have 12-gauge spokes, and that helps to handle the 500-watt motor. This is a geared hub motor. I'm guessing it might be Das Kit. I don't really know, because Velec has done their own branding on it. It's definitely zippy. You do hear it a little bit more. Geared motors, there's gears in there, and it's sort of like up converting the power, and it keeps the weight down, keeps the size down as well. This will freewheel. It's not going to provide any resistance or drag, but I don't know, 500 watts, that's pretty good for a bike like this, and it gives you the throttle operation. In terms of pedal assist, we have an 8-magnet sensor. It's just this plastic disc with little magnets on it. So as you pedal, it starts and it stops based on that crank arm movement. It's not as fluid as the other bike, the R48M mid-drive, because it has cadence and torque sensing. So the harder you push, the more energy you get. Whereas this one, it's just on or off based on the level of assist. And we'll go through that in the display in a little bit. It's simpler, but it gets the job done. And because this bike has a throttle override, you can just use the throttle to help yourself get going in a smoother way, and then keep pedaling with that cadence sensor. And I want to call out this cable you might see right here near the seat stays. They have an optional rack upgrade where you just replace this whole rack with an additional battery pack, like 4.4 amp hours, so 48 4.4. Kind of neat. I'm not sure if I would necessarily do it, because I only weigh 135 pounds and I don't really have a problem with range, but it would be a neat option, and it's a cool way to fit more capacity onto this frame. I mean, for $300 extra, you go from 48 volt, 10 or 11 amp hour battery here up to 14 amp hours, and then you add another 4.4 amp hours, and all of a sudden it's kind of a impressive setup. There are very few electric bikes out there that have that kind of expandability or modularity with batteries. So That's a real highlight for me, something I appreciate. Now, some of the things that are trade-offs to me is that, yes, this is a step-through. It's great that most of the weight is low and center here on the battery versus having a big battery that's on the rack or something. But there is still a little bit of frame flex, not a whole lot, but a little bit, and that's just how it goes when you have a step-through bike. We've got a front and rear light, but they require like physical on-off activation. So see, there's a little switch over here. I click it to on. There's just 2 little LEDs in there and a nice reflective surface, but it's manual, and there's 2 AA batteries in there. So it's not taking advantage of all those extra batteries. Now, if you do replace this with the other rear rack battery, that one has a Spinninga light built right in, and I think it runs off the battery. So that's a nice little upgrade. But still, it's like $375 for that, and it's not something I think I would do for myself. And then we have this nice headlight, and it is wired in, but you'll see the wire's kind of long, and you know, you might want to just tuck it in or zip tie it so it doesn't get snagged. This light also requires physical activation. So see, I had to push the button down there. And that's kind of a bummer because it's like 1 step, 2 steps. Hopefully you've charged the battery and it's all set up to go. And then 3 steps up here, power button for the display. So that's 3 steps. Every time you get off the bike, it's 3 more steps. 1, 2, 3. And if you forget the rear light, you're going to wear those batteries out, and that's sort of a bummer. Could be kind of wasteful. The pedal on the left side has plenty of room with this adjustable length kickstand. I really appreciate that. And then up at the front here, you can see there's the charging port for the battery, and I appreciate that it's not down near the crank arm, okay, because this is a lot less likely to get snagged. And the charger for this bike, it's in my backpack. I didn't want to get it out and get it all wet, but it's 3 amps. It's really small and cute. It's one of my favorite chargers, I think. It only weighs like a pound, 1.6 pounds, and it even has a fuse, like a removable fuse on it. So pretty good as far as chargers go. And it's going to fill these batteries a little bit faster. But if you get that rear rack battery, I think it has to be plugged in separately. It's not like you plug it in once. You have to charge them independently. So it's not a perfect solution, but still, you know, it gets the job done. And then under this little handle on the main battery, there is a full-size USB Type-A port. So you could plug into that probably ideally when the battery's off the bike. And you do want to store lithium-ion batteries like this in a cool, dry location. Try not to drop them. Try not to let them get all the way down to like 10% or 20% even. It starts to stress the cells. So I usually park my bike maybe in a garage or something like that, and then I'll plug the battery in somewhere where I know it's safe and secure. And just a good temperature, that'll help it last. And maybe you're camping or something like this. You could ride this bike, take the battery off, and then you could plug your cell phone in and fill your phone like on the go. I think that's great, and it's another reason to really consider that 14 amp hour upgrade if you're looking at these bikes. And I think it looks just the same. It's just higher capacity. They probably use higher energy density cells. There's a little LED readout on the top of the battery. I think that's cool. So the display, oh no, I accidentally brushed that off. You're getting a beautiful look at this brand new display. At the top, speed in miles per hour. If you hold plus and minus, it'll switch to kilometers per hour. Then we have assist level. It's in 0 now, and the throttle will not work in 0. And you have an on-off switch on the throttle, so that's kind of cool, because sometimes you can bump this and you don't mean to. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Very cool. And then we have a battery infographic, but it just shows 5 ticks, which is 20% increments. It'd be nice if those were like 10 ticks or maybe even a percentage readout. Trip distance and odometer. That's really it. There are a couple more things you can do here, like set a password and go in and clear the trip meter by holding set. I've listed all those back at the website, including standover height for this bike, reach, length, all the stuff you might be curious about. And of course, if you have a question, please leave it in the comments. I'll do my best to answer. I've been in touch with Alex from this company. They've been very helpful, and it's kind of neat. It's a new brand to me, but one that seems to be fairly popular in Canada and sold in a lot of places. So with that said, I'm just gonna stow the kickstand, hop on this wet saddle, and do some pedaling. Seems like there was a delay from when I started pedaling to when the bike actually took off. I'm gonna try that again. I'm gonna take it all the way up to level 5 with assist. definitely getting there. Feels like a cadence sensor, but the motor comes on pretty smoothly, so I'm not getting like thrown off the bike or overwhelmed or anything. And the fenders are actually pretty quiet too, considering I'm on grass, sort of bumpy. Very cool. I'm feeling pretty stable here. Oh boy, oh boy. Sometimes it's fun to see how long you can go without your hands. And there's a little hill over here too, so I'm just gonna climb this. I'm not really pushing. Not bad. It got it done. Of course, the throttle is fun too. Just be able to, got a little squeaky brake action going on. Switch hands. Oh boy. There's the throttle. Yeah, now I'm really feeling the zip. 14, 15 miles per hour. We're going pretty fast. Oh boy. And the wind. It's sort of a precarious day to be out riding. But I'm glad I'm on an e-bike here. It's fun to cruise across the grass. No one's hanging out with us in the park anymore. Got the whole place to ourselves because it's wet. And there's Denver skyline in the background. Very cool. Okay guys, from here you can see all the grass that got on the bike. Actually, it just tipped over accidentally, and it was really nice to have that derailleur guard to keep the frame in good shape. I'm gonna go ahead and pedal along in pedal assist level 5 so you can hear the motor starting and stopping. It'll be more pronounced than if you were in any of those lower levels of assist. And yeah, we'll just have some fun riding along. Yeah, seems like everything's working pretty well. Again, a little bit slow on the take up occasionally when I do pedal assist. Only 8 magnets versus 12, so lower resolution. Maybe some bouncing on the chain. Not entirely sure. And then I want to mention the front disc brake rotor is 180 versus 160 in the rear, and most of your stopping power does come from the front wheel. So it makes sense. The whole setup's working kind of as expected and pretty well. Well guys, my hands are getting a little bit cold. I gotta get gloves on. I think that's about it. As I mentioned before, I've got more specs and details back at the site. I welcome your feedback in the comments or the forum. Have fun out there, and just be safe. We'll see you next time.